Okay guys, hope you're all well. Ooh, what a mess we're all in, aren't we? Anyway, let's see what we can do. What are we going to talk about today? See, this isn't going to be a quick tip, because you can see this, yes. This is going to be quite a long one, and we're going to be working in Rawtherapee. And it seems strange that I'm starting over here in Lightroom, but I suppose I'm starting over here in Lightroom to show you why I'm going to do this particular job in Rawtherapee. We've got a picture here up in Dartmoor, or down on Dartmoor I should say, shot by one of my patron members, Gary. Hello Gary. And lovely lad, Gary, lovely lad. Oh, he's got cold hands, yeah. Anyway, terrible. So Gary sent this shot in, and it's one of those shots where the scene is great. I quite like the composition, but the lighting's rubbish. And of course, there's nothing you can do about rubbish lighting when you're out landscaping. So you have to learn to make the best of a bad job. Now, we're going to be doing this image in Rawtherapee, as I said, and I suppose in a way this video's gonna sound as if I'm rubbishing Lightroom, and you know I do have my problems with Lightroom. It is what it is, but fundamentally when we want to make adjustments to an image in a particular region or regions of the image inside of Lightroom, those regions are best described as being defined by edges within the image. For instance, the sharpening mask. So if I hold the Alt key down and click and drag on the sharpening mask, you can see it's defined by edges. Okay, so the thing is, we can sharpen based on edges, but we can't really do a lot else based on edges, and we certainly can't make contrast adjustments based on the frequency of detail in certain areas of the image. Now, we can very easily do that inside of Rawtherapee, and this is an image that is going to have some sort of variable adjustment on it based on the frequency of detail. And it often surprises me why the guys over at Adobe on the Lightroom dev team don't actually sort of realise this, and I just think it's simply because Adobe is very forward thinking down one path, multiple sales of Lightroom to the general photography population, and so they like to keep things nice and simple, whereas Rawtherapee isn't nice and simple at all. Fundamentally a lot more complex than Lightroom, but it does brass me off that the guys over at Adobe can't sort of produce a separate functionality inside of Lightroom, which we all have to pay for, that works fundamentally the same as Rawtherapee. And the other thing is, with this image, it's shot in a 5D Mark III. Now if I blow it up to what we're at now, 3:1 view, we can see, even if I just go and knock some contrast out of it, we can see we've got quite broad sharpening halos everywhere, and even if I turn the sharpening off, there are places where we can still see halos, we can still see little demosaic and artifacts in here. And if we go to another area down here, maybe this trunk, it's going to be hard for you to see with video compression for YouTube, but we've still got a halo running up the side of this tree here, and we've got all the sharpening turned off, so that halo is, as I've said before in many videos in the past, that halo and Lightroom shortcomings are down to the demosaicing algorithm. We've only got one, God knows what it is, it's an Adobe custom design thing, and you can't vary it, whereas in Rawtherapee you've got numerous demosaicing algorithms to choose from. So really and truly, where we're going with this, I'm going to take the image into Rawtherapee because I want to be able to bring the sky, which is quite bland and featureless in this image, I want to be able to bring it more in line with the foreground. And I'm thinking the treatment I'm going to end up with is black and white, and we're going to end up with a shot very much like this. We could go heavier on it, and we could go like that, or we could do a colour image and go sort of quite heavy on the colour grading, a bit like that. However, what we're going to do is process the image in colour inside Rawtherapee, and then we're going to bring it back into Lightroom to do the black and white conversion. The reason I'd say that is because the black and white conversion inside a Lightroom is a lot more intuitive and a lot easier than it is inside of Rawtherapee. The intuitive bit is the thing I'm really getting at here. So I think without further ado, what we're going to do is flip off over to Rawtherapee, and here we've got the image, and this is it opened straight in Rawtherapee as opposed to opened up straight in Lightroom, which, if you remember, makes it look overly contrasty, it makes the sky too bright, and and it just makes the darks look far too dark. And don't forget, this is off a 5D Mark III, so we can't really push the shadow areas too much, otherwise we're going to end up with some pattern noise in there. So anyway, let's get on. I told you it was going to be a long video, and I know I do ramble a little bit, but I've sort of got to give you a bit of a preamble as to why I'm doing what I'm doing with this image of Gary's. So here we are inside of Rawtherapee, and the first thing that I want to do is to try and match up the sky with the ground, or the foreground. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn on dynamic range compensation, and now you can see it's dropped the contrast of the foreground. The saturation of the colours appears to have gone up a little bit. You can see the colours more clearly, but look how much closer to the ground the sky is. So what we're going to do is move the anchor point more over towards the highlights, and watch what happens now. So now we brighten the entire image up, and then I'm going to move the amount slider over to the right to possibly around about lower 50s, and that's really gone super bright now, hasn't it? But do you notice how things are very, very, very much closer to each other between the sky and the foreground? Okay, so we're probably going to come back to this in a moment and have a little play with it, but I want to go and apply a little bit of sharpening to the image. So this is a nice little tip for you in Rawtherapee. Don't keep blowing the image up to 100%. Use the sharpening preview detail windows. And so there we go. And so I've got a window there, and you can see it's defined by this red box here, and I think I'm just going to back that amount slider off a little bit there, and then we're going to hop over onto the raw tab, and we're going to invoke the capture sharpening. So we'll just turn the capture sharpening on, and we'll just wait for that to process, rather like that. And so now you can see we've got a heck of a lot of sharpening on there, and we might have to come and back that off in a moment. So this image is now low contrast. The thing is, when we're going to do a black and white, we want to get as much colour variation in the image, because it just allows us to have a greater degree of tonality within areas such as this foreground here and these rocks, because different colours convert to black and white in different brightnesses or grey tones. So we want quite a colourful image out of Rawtherapee. In order to do this, I want to maximise the degree of sharpness. I need to get noise under control, especially over here in these dark areas, which you can see there we've got some colour noise, so we really have got to get that under control. But what I want to do first is to go and add more definition to the areas of high frequency detail, and we can do that in Rawtherapee very easily. You can't do it at all inside of Lightroom. We can do multiple processes of the same image and take them as multiple layers into Photoshop, and then create masks which are loosely based in Photoshop on the level of detail frequency in areas of the image. But wavelet processing inside of Rawtherapee makes this an absolute cinch. So what we're going to do is just change the area that we're looking at, and we're just wanting to make sure we're on the highest contrast boundary in the scene. When we do this, we're going to come over to the wavelets and we're going to turn on wavelet levels. I'm going to leave the edge performance just at D4 standard, and I'm going to take the wavelet levels up to the maximum, which is 9. So now we're going to come and activate contrast. So we'll turn it on, and I'm just going to hit the plus contrast button, and you'll notice, because you've seen me demonstrate this before in another video, these sliders will start to move over, but they'll move over proportionally. Slider number 1 concentrates on the contrast on the areas of the highest frequency detail, and level number 9 is on the coarsest detail, which is very, very low frequency detail, which is like the sky. So the adjustments we're going to make here are going to be more prevalent in the areas of high frequency detail than they are in the sky. So what we're going to do is just take the finest contrast up to about plus 63, and now you can see we're making a little bit of an inroad into there, but it's not blatantly obvious. I'm going to apply it to the whole luminance range of the image, and now you can see if I go and turn that off, there is the image unadjusted. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll turn the contrast adjustments back on, and now you can see it's a little bit like the sort of overemphasis of contrast that you used to get when you did HDR image assembly using something like Photomatics. So you've got to be a little bit careful if you're keeping the image in colour that you don't make it look too HDR-ish. Yeah, so there you go. So that's a bit of a warning. Now I did say I wanted to make sure that I put more colour into the image, or I maximise the amount of colour. So what we can do is we can come and activate the chroma setting. What we can do is change from the whole chroma range to link to contrast levels. So what chroma does is in effect turn the saturation up a little bit, increases the rendition or the colourfulness of the areas that are increased in contrast with these contrast wavelet levels. But of course we can't see anything yet until we actually lift the link value up. So what we'll do is we'll go and lift the link value up, and we'll probably take it up to about 14, maybe take it up to 25 or 22, and just let it process the image. And you can see if I turn that chroma off, there we go, and it just gets a little less saturated in these tones here in the rocks. Let's just move up so we're looking at some grass here and a little bit of high frequency detail. We'll turn the chroma back on, and there we go. We just get a little bit of a lift. You've noticed these little red bilberry leaves here. Turn that chroma off and they just go a little bit more subdued. Turn the chroma back on, and there we go. So we're just adding that little bit of extra colourfulness to the image. Not a very good looking image, but it will transpose to black and white quite nicely. Now then, what else do we need to do? I just think that if I just come over to this high contrast edge here, I can't see that we've got any artifacting over there or any problems. Have we got any problems over on the tree? No, not really. But I think what I will do is change the demosaicing from Amaze to Amaze plus BNG4, and that just sort of cleans those edges up just a little bit. They're not quite so dark, but you can see the multitude of colour that we've got in this hawthorn tree here, and it is quite astonishing really. So what I'm going to do is just simply call it quits at that, I think. I just want to go and check inside this very dark hole here, and yeah, you can see we've got quite a bit of noise in there. So we're going to come back to the details panel, and we're just going to activate noise reduction, and we'll just leave it in lab, leave it at a conservative level, and just lift up the luminance just a little bit and just wait and see, because it does take a little bit of time actually running the noise reduction through Rawtherapee. So we'll just wait for it to process out and see what it does to the image. Yeah, we've reduced the noise in there. I think I might just take it up just a little bit more, probably take it up to about 10, because we've got quite a lot of capture sharpening on this image, and we've just made the superfine detail, or the high frequency detail, a lot more visible and a lot more pronounced with those wavelet level contrast adjustments. So we can afford to be quite aggressive with the noise reduction. Might even take that up to 15 if we can get it to move that fast. And there we go, 14 and a bit. Just let that process out, and I don't think that's looking too bad at all. So what I'm going to do is scoop this image, or I'm going to save it out. So I'm not coming to the little icon that usually sends it straight over to Photoshop. I'm actually going to save the image. I've got it saved 2 or 3 times here, so I'm going to actually call it YTD for YT Demo, or YouTube Demo, and we're going to save it and click OK. So it's just rendering out and applying all the adjustments that we've made, which when you think about it, isn't very much. And so the progress bar runs up the side here inside of Rawtherapee. So what we'll do is when it's saved, we'll come out of Rawtherapee, go back into Lightroom, and we'll import this file into Lightroom. So to import the image into Lightroom, all I'm going to do is just go on the original raw file. We're just going to go to folder in library. There is the folder, it's highlighted. So I'll just right click and I will go synchronize folder. And it says import new photos, 7 of them, show import dialog before importing. Well, I only want to import one image that's in there, so we'll just go synchronize and we'll go uncheck all, and this is the one we want, YTD, and so we'll click import. We'll minimize the folders, open the collections, and we'll just drag this into, where is it, Dartmoor Gary. There we go, and this is the one. So what we'll do is take that straight into the develop module, and we'll go to the basics panel, and we will select black and white. And there we go. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just come down to the calibration panel, and you've seen me do this in another video. And what we'll do is we'll just turn up the saturation of blue, and you can see the massive difference, or the huge shift that you can bring about by changing the saturation of the blue primary channel in Lightroom. There's no blue light in there. Well, there was no blue colour in there, was there? It's all yellows and greens. So what we can do is we can really light the foreground up. And can we bring about any changes with the green saturation? We can actually bring about a little bit of a change by turning the green saturation down. Can we change the hue of the primary? Possibly just a little bit like that. Just a very subtle effect there. The red won't make any difference, I don't think. Oh, it does. So what we'll do is we'll take the saturation away from the red, just to add a little bit of dark variation in there. Alrighty, so now I'm going to come to the black and white panel, and this is where the black and white conversion is somewhat more, how can I put it, intuitive than it is in Rawtherapee. So what colours will facilitate the greatest changes in the nature or the tonality of this black and white image? Well, let's have a look at greens, obviously, and let's turn greens up. So now we're getting quite a lot of lightness coming into the image, but those greens, you have to remember, will contain yellow. If we take the saturation away, we can make quite a lot of that grass go very dark. But do you really want to do that? No, you don't. Not really, for the simple reason that the greens contain a lot of yellow. So whatever we do with the yellow, we want to be doing with the greens as well. Otherwise we'll pull those greenish tones apart, because half of it will want to go darker, the other half will want to go lighter. So you've just got to be careful. These colours are laid out in a particular order. It's because they're all quite closely related to each other. So just bear that in mind. Orange. Now you can see these are the bilberry flowers in the main, and some of the darker parts of the rocks. So we just got to be a bit careful what we're doing. Blues or aquas. Now you can see they control the background that's hidden in a sort of a mist. So we might just want to make those a little bit on the darker side. Blues will control the more of the far distance and the sky, as you can see there. But the only thing is you've got to be careful what's happening in the sky. Let's take it to a 1-to-1 view. You'll see you'll start to throw noise into the sky if you oversaturate or overlighten or reduce the luminance. Either or. If you do it too much, you'll start to generate noise. So just got to be a little bit careful what we're doing here. And we come out to a fit to screen view. I'm now going to put a radial graduated filter in here, and I'm going to stretch it pretty much across the image, centered sort of roughly on the tree. I don't want to see the mask overlay. And what we're going to do is we're going to just first of all drop the exposure. Now you see the tick is in the invert box. I don't want to be dropping the exposure inside the radial filter. I want to be dropping it outside. So we'll invert it, and then we'll sort of feather it out a little bit, rather like that. And I might actually want to take the contrast of the image up a smidge. Let's go and add some clarity, and let's go and add a little bit of dehaze outside of that filter. So now you can see what we're doing is sort of bringing in the edges of the image, and we've got a lot more definition going on in the sky. Okay, sorry about that, guys, if you noticed a little bit of a jump cut in the insert video. Battery went down on the camera. Anyway, where were we? Yes, I've done those adjustments on the radial graduated filter, so we'll just go ahead and click done on that. And I just want to go in and have a look at the sky, and you can see it's just getting a little bit granular, and I get the feeling it might be an adjustment in here. You've got to be careful what you're doing with these black and white mix sliders, because if you are not careful, you will cause a little bit of noise. The noise is in the extremes of the image, so I think what I'm going to do is just come out to a fit to screen view again, and if I just come and activate that filter there, and then we come into the image at 100%, and I'll just look here. How's about if I add a little bit of noise reduction to that? Is that going to make a lot of difference? It's made a bit of a difference in the sky. I mean, this level of noise wouldn't come out in a print, but just need to be careful as it doesn't start to become amplified. So yeah, so we'll click done on that, and we'll come out to fit to screen view. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is get a graduated filter, and I'm just going to lift it up probably around about like that, nice little jaunty angle, and we will add a little bit of exposure, and we will add a little bit of extra contrast, not too much. We'll add a little bit of clarity perhaps, and maybe even a little tiny bit of dehaze. Alrighty. Now the other thing is that because we're working in black and white, if I come to the temperature slider for the actual graduated filter, let's see if we can't make an adjustment. Can you see how we can light everything up without using luminosity? We're actually changing the color temperature, because don't forget, this is a black and white treatment on a color image. So that's another tool that you can use in your black and white conversions in Lightroom. And this is what I'm talking about when I say that your black and white conversions can be more intuitive inside of Lightroom than in Rawtherapee for certain, and perhaps even inside Photoshop. Yeah, so just something you need to remember. So I think we'll just click done on that, and let's go in here. Yeah, everything in the garden's looking rosy. I can't see any real glaring artifacts in there, not really. Come out to a fit to screen view, and the next thing I'm going to do is go and do what I always do. I like priority vignette. I'm just going to slide it down to about 16 or minus 16. I'm going to take my midpoint all the way over to 0. We'll come and put the feather all the way over to the right hand side. I don't think that's looking too bad either. Let's just go and check that at 100% in the sky. Check we're not doing anything untoward there. No, it's all looking really good. Yeah. Okay, let's just go and check these leaves on these trees. They are looking a little bit crispy, and so what I'm going to do is go into the black and white mix section again, and I'm just going to get the purple slider. I'm just going, because if you think about it, the leaves are green and the sky's grey. Now there is a little bit of a purple content in the sky, as you can see. But if I lighten that purple, it just makes the edges of the leaves look a little bit more subtle, where they are against the sky. I might just bring the greens down a little bit, just make them a little less light, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm happy with everything else, I think. So we'll come back out to a fit to screen view. And what else can we do? Let's just go and check this black hole here. I've got detail in that black hole. Video compression might make it look a little bit patchy, and it is a little bit patchy really, but it's not noisy, so I'm quite happy with that. Now, I mean, if this was an image that it was my image and I was going to print it, or if I was doing a long workflow video on this, then I would actually start coming in here and doing a little bit of dodging and burning, just to emphasize these various areas on the rocks, but I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do dodging and burning in Lightroom the cheats way, which I see a lot of people doing on YouTube, and they sort of make out that it's the Dogs to Mooley's way of doing dodging and burning, and it really isn't. It's a right cheap nasty trick, but it's just using small radial graduated filters. So we'll just draw in a radial grab there, and I'm just going to lift the exposure on it a little bit, not too much, just probably about half a stop, and I might just come in and add a little bit of clarity to that as well, or maybe a little bit of contrast. Dare I put a little tiny bit of dehaze in? Maybe. Okay, it looks fairly convincing, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate it, because there seems to be a little path here, or some sort of light demarcation in the ground. So now I've done that, all I'm going to do is duplicate and then drag that over here. I'll then duplicate it again, and I'll pull it round and rotate it, rather like that. But I actually think that the clarity needs to come down, probably 1010 for clarity and dehaze. We'll go and duplicate it again. Yes, we will. And all you see people do is this constant duplication of little radial graduated filters. That's not looking too bad, but I think we're going to have to bring that exposure down, because it's making things look a little bit too black. I'm going to take that dehaze out and just drop the contrast a little bit. And I might just take the clarity out as well. And we'll duplicate again. Move that over here just to lighten this little bit of ground up. We'll duplicate it again. Yes, we will. And you can do this quite successfully. You can make quite a nice job in Lightroom of utilising these little tiny, well, they're not little tiny things, are they really? But these radial graduated filters. And of course you can always compress them and change the shape and rotate them so they fit just where you want them to. And we'll go and do another one. And we'll sort of put that there. We'll rotate it just a little bit, and then we'll stretch it out, and just stretch it out along that rock there. And then maybe do another one, duplicate, rotate that. Woohoo! Come on. Rotate that, and then just stretch it out just a little bit. And yeah, so if we go ahead and click done on that, and yes, it's not looking too bad at all. What else can we do? Let's just come back into the basics panel and see if there's just a little final lift that we can give this image. So let's just come for the dehaze slider and see what that can do. That just makes these corners just encroach a little bit more on the image, and I rather like that. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the dehaze slider, but I get so fed up of seeing that people wang that dehaze slider up and wang that clarity slider up. and it's seriously, guys, it is not right. Just add a little tiny bit of clarity. 21, maybe just back that off just a smidgen, and then take that dehaze to about 11, and all in all, I don't think that's looking too bad at all. I'm quite pleased with that. Gary, hope you like this. Yes, I do, mate. So there we go. And when you think about it, this black and white image is derived from this raw file, and if we just go and put them in a contrast and compare view, yes, that's better. I always like the good stuff on the left. Yes. So we're just going to hit the tab button to get rid of the two side panels. L, turn the lights out. There's our finished image. It could be a little bit punchier, but you know, I mean, it's certainly a lot better than the Lightroom default look of Gary's original Dartmoor landscape with the rather sickly looking sky. And don't forget, we haven't done a sky swap. We haven't put anything in the sky. All that sky is actually recorded on that raw file, but it's only thanks to the likes of Rawtherapee that we've actually managed to pull that detail out of the sky to get it to register in the image in the first place. And if you remember, what started us on the way to getting that sky was in actual fact the dynamic range compression tool inside of Rawtherapee. And then of course we brought more details out, and we got this super sharp detail on the rocks and in the foreground with the wavelet contrast. Okie dokie. So hope you've enjoyed that, guys and gals. Please don't think I'm slagging Lightroom off. Everything has got its shortcomings. There's no such thing as a perfect photography raw file processor. There is no such thing, and we've all got access to these tools, so learn to mix and match them. So there we go. Bit of an oddball workflow, that, no Photoshop at all. So we've developed a raw file inside of Rawtherapee, exported it out, and immediately brought it back into Lightroom to make use of Lightroom's intuitive black and white processing, or black and white conversion. So there you go. As I said before, hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Now please, wherever you are in the world, just do me a big favour. Look after yourself, stay safe, stay well, keep away from COVID, keep away from everybody else, because as this death toll goes up, and you know, I mean, it's just a really bad thing that so many people are dying. But you know, I mean, there's people out there who are just not taking any notice whatsoever of lockdown restrictions, either here in the UK or elsewhere. And as long as people flout the rules, this virus will continue to spread, and more people will continue to die. Some people I don't care about, but all you guys I do care about. So again, look after yourself, stay safe, stay well, and until the next time, tooroo.